Hello friends, welcome to this week's video from Culture Katha. When we talk astrology, the one word that pops into our mind immediately is the word horoscope. What is a horoscope, or a jatakam, or a kundali as we call it in India? A horoscope is actually a map of the skies at the time of a person's birth. The chart should ideally have been circular, but it's been reduced to the shape of a square for easy readability, just like we have done with our maps. Now, this map or horoscope contains 12 boxes that represent each of the 12 Rashis, starting from Mesham or Aries to Meenam or Pisces. Rashi, as you may recollect from my previous video, are constellations in the sky through which the sun is seen to move as seen from the earth. Now, each of these 12 Rashis measure exactly 30 degrees. So, together all these 12 Rashis add up to 360 degrees, which is the measure of the elliptical orbits of all celestial bodies, including the sun and the moon. However, in the Indian lunisolar system, the moon is given more prominence, and a person's Rashi is the Rashi in which the moon is found at the time of his or her birth. So, this is different from the Western system of astrology, where the sun's placement in a constellation decides a person's zodiac sign. So, the Westerners follow the sun, while we in India follow the moon. But why do the Rashis start with Aries? In my previous video, I had talked to you about how really long ago the Indian lunar calendar system got integrated with the Hellenistic or Greek solar calendar system. As a result, ancient Indian astrologers adopted the Western system of placing Aries or Mesham at the start of the zodiac. Now, that's the reason why our Rashi chart starts with Aries, which marks the beginning of spring equinox. Now, equinox is one of the two times in a year when the duration of the day and the duration of the night in a day are equal. Coming back to our horoscope, the exact place, date and time of birth is used to arrive at the position of the 9 grahas or planets with respect to the Rashis. Talking of grahas, it's interesting to note that of the 9 grahas which we associate with planets, only 5 are actually planets, and those are Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn. The remaining grahas are the Sun and the Moon and Rahu and Ketu. You may realize that none of these are planets, these 4 I mean. Sun is a star, Moon is the Earth's satellite, and Rahu and Ketu are not really planets or grahas, but only represent the points of intersection of the orbits of the Sun and the Moon. Now, these grahas are given lordship over the 12 Rashis. While Sun is the lord of Leo or Simha Rashi, the Moon lords over Cancer or Kataka Rashi. The other 5 grahas, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, rule over 2 Rashis each. For example, Venus rules over Taurus and Libra, and Saturn rules over Aquarius and Capricorn. Now, there are multiple ways in which the Rashis and the planets' placement in them can be represented. As in, there are multiple ways of representing one's horoscope. The two popular styles are the South Indian and the North Indian styles. In the South Indian format, the Rashis are arranged clockwise in a rectangular box, starting from the second box on the top left. And this house represents the Mesha Rashi or Aries, the first of the 12 Rashis that spans the first 30 degrees of the constellation. The following Rashi, Rishabham, occupies the next box spanning the next 30 to 60 degrees. All the Rashis are thus accommodated across the 12 boxes and eventually end with Meenam or Pisces, whose coordinates are the last 30 degrees ending in 360 degrees. Now the box in the middle, that represents the earth around which the celestial bodies are seen to move. Remember, our system of astronomy is geocentric, that puts earth right in the middle. The interesting thing to note about the South Indian horoscope format is that the planets as lords of the Rashis are arranged in the chart in the same order as they are found in the universe. However, in the North Indian format, the Rashis are not assigned to the strictly designated boxes. So they are not fixed. They change depending on what is called the ascendant or lagna in a person's horoscope. So what is a lagna? The lagna represents the nakshatra that is seen rising on the eastern horizon at the date, time and place of a person's birth. Depending upon the pada of the nakshatra, we have already seen padas of nakshatras in my previous video, remember. So depending upon the pada of the nakshatra, it's placed, the lagna is placed in the corresponding rashi. The lagna which is designated house number 1 in the horoscope is believed to set the tone for the nature and events, nature of a person and the events that happen in his life. In the South Indian format of a horoscope, the lagna is placed in the box pertaining to the corresponding rashi. On the other hand, in the North Indian format, the lagna is always placed in the centermost box, which becomes the seat of the rashi that corresponds to the lagna. The other important difference between the two formats is that the South Indian format is read clockwise and the North Indian format is read anti-clockwise. Now that brings us to the all important question of how astrologers make predictions. Now each of the 9 grahas that we have seen are vested with certain specific attributes. Some like Jupiter and Venus are considered benefic, while grahas such as Mars and Sun are considered malefic or fiery by nature. Each of the rashis too possess certain specific qualities. So do the 27 nakshatras. Each of the 12 houses in a person's horoscope represents something in a person's life. For instance, the first house or the lagna, as I mentioned earlier, represents the person's self, his nature and his destiny. The second house represents wealth, the third house siblings, and so on. The important thing to remember here is that all the elements in the horoscope, including the planets, rashis and nakshatras, are constantly moving. When they keep moving, they are also continuously interacting with each other. The interplay of these elements, their movements and interactions are analyzed to make predictions about a person's destiny. So does that mean that everything in a person's life is predestined and nothing is left to free will? Not really. A person's experiences in life are determined by the karma he or she has accumulated over time, and that karma stems from that person's own actions, both in his past and current life. So in a way, astrology holds the person responsible for all that happens to him or her. While fruits of the person's actions may choose to play out at different times in a person's life or even in different lifetimes, there is no escaping one's karma according to astrology. So what astrology does is merely link the experiences in a person's present life to his or her past actions and predict how the fruits of those actions are likely to play out in one's current life. Friends, I know that was a bit of a complex topic. I've tried to simplify it as much as possible for you. But if you do have any more questions regarding this topic, please do drop them in the comment section below and I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. And of course, needless to say, if you've enjoyed watching this video, please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. If you are a subscriber already, do remember to press the bell icon to receive notifications on new video uploads. So till I meet you all again with yet another interesting story. Tata, bye bye, take care.